Hello. In today's episode of How To with Hargett, we're going to be discussing if you have bought one of these within the last 6 months, what's next? It's important to acknowledge that since March of this year, the FBI has recorded over 1.6 million more applications for gun permits this year than any year previous, including the month of July for 2019. We know that also in the month of March, when gun sales soared and rocketed, that accidental shootings in homes by children had risen a sharp 43% just in 1 month. So the common denominator is that we think that as we do all the proper things, we purchase a gun, we apply for that permit, we get that background check done, we receive a few instructions from the person that's selling us the weapon, that we're good to go. But there's a lot more. In my opinion, that's just the beginning of the responsibility of a gun owner. I mean, it just stands to reason. Why would children have access to weapons for the percentages to increase so significantly in 1 month? In my opinion, is that the gun owner that purchased that gun went home and left that weapon in a position to where their children could have access to it. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing and looking at the viable aspects of what do we do for proper, responsible gun ownership. Politicians can argue what they want to where they are. I'm more about a real, down-to-earth, common sense way. If I'm responsible for my weapon, that stands true for everything about it, in transporting it in a vehicle, at home, making sure that it never falls into the wrong hands by either someone who is young in my home that's there that has access to it, or if someone breaks in my home and steals it. So we're going to be looking at two ways that we're going to be looking at the proper, responsible care as you as a new gun owner. And even if you've had guns or weapons for a while, maybe you've missed that. Maybe you didn't have children. Maybe it's not something that's ever crossed your mind. So we're going to be looking at today some true, down-to-earth ways to make your guns or your weapons inaccessible to children, and also to deter those who want to steal them from you. Now we're going to talk about these entry-level components. We have a cable lock that we can actually use that will slide into any type of particular barrel. Spins around, pushes back in, locks in like that. Turn the lock, locks it in. And now this weapon cannot be used for any purpose or reason. A lot of flexibility that can be used in a lot of different particular weapons or guns. The next one up from that next level is a trigger guard. They can go into the trigger. This threads into the other side like that. And that will lock that particular trigger in a position that cannot be fired. This is a particular key this is a recessed bolt in here. You cannot get that bolt out unless you have this particular key to latch onto it to pull it back out. This is both of these items I got at Walmart for less than $10. They're sold through Gunmaster. Work efficiently, very effective in protecting your weapon. Now the next level up from that, before we get to the safes themselves, is what we call as a strong box. I did a review on Fort Knox. This is a very dependable item. You put your weapon in there, you close the door, you latch it. And the good thing about the dependability of these is that they do not have an electronic lock that can be defective, the battery die, you can't get the door open when you need to open, then you go try and find the key, the secondary mechanism to open the door. This one is primarily just mechanical, works very dependable, it's spring-loaded on the door for quick accessibility. Now, the cool thing I like about it is that you have removable pins right here that you can actually bolt this down to a piece of furniture. Even I kind of like the idea of being horizontal like this. And then you can also lay it down flat, or this I guess would be more vertical from its viewpoint, but most people look at it as a design point that you can put it like this. And they love this design because now you can stack stuff on top of it whereas other safes where you put your hand for the top for accessibility, the door pops open to the top, and now you can't put anything on top of it. So this, you put something on top of it, both sides of it, and gain quick accessibility to the front. So the cheapest, easiest is the cable lock. Next is a trigger guard. Next is a strong box, and then we move to our safety, or safe, or vault. Now we've reached the pinnacle to protect any type of weapon that you may have in your home. Now, the cool thing about looking at these safes or vaults is that they also can be interchangeable for other valuables in your home that you may want to protect. And so that's the cool thing about these. Now, this is a Browning entry-level safe. It's around $2,100. This is has a lot of features in it that's also compatible with its price. It's compact. I don't see but just a few areas in here that you can get for a long rifle. We can remove these shells here. They are adjustable and interchangeable. Of course, you're looking at the major dynamic that you'll notice between this particular safe and the next one that we're going to look at is that the fire rating is not as significant, which is a very big factor in protecting the valuables that's in here, but also the actual construction of the metal, the design features of this locking mechanism. All these things start playing into factors. You start trying to say, okay, well, why is another particular safe thousands of dollars? This one unit we're looking down here is almost $9,000, as opposed to one that's $2,000. So what in the world is going on for that $7,000 worth of price difference? And it has to do all with construction of the safe, making it harder to break into, to penetrate, to having a less fire rating. So there's a lot of factors that goes into that. But at the end of the day, for this illustration, we're just looking at the fact that you have the top of the line way of protecting any type of weapons that you may have in your home. So we're going to look at this is the entry level, which would be what I define as a cheaper price point. And now we're going to look at what you could actually go up to. All right, so now we're down here with the Fort Knox safes. We really looked at a Browning, which is an entry level point, $2,000 safe. But as you can quickly see, there's lots of different significant differences. First thing that caught my attention when I came up here is the actual physical size. It's taller, wider, and it's also deeper. Therefore, you can get more particular items that you would want to protect there, even over a type of weapon scenario. This particular Fort Knox safe here is for $4,000, and it has a lot more capability and flexibility of putting long rifles, shotguns, things of that nature that's easily accessible to get in and out. And we have more room to get different things in here. Now, one limiting factor is that as you open this safe up, you notice that if you have an adjacent wall here, that you can only go so far before it starts hitting the wall. Now, that could be, you'd have to open that up to get like a box or something larger in on these shelves. But if you had a wall that was running at an angle to the safe, then you could only open the door, say, about like that before we hit the wall. Now, what happens is then it restricts any larger items getting out of here, like it might be documents or a file cabinet, things of that nature that's of interest of protecting. So those are the different things that we're looking at, that as you're looking at a safe, you can actually cover two different dynamics for that. The Fort Knox, this higher class was called the Titan, is $8,700. And so even just pulling on the door, it is so much significant. I bet it's probably 2.5 times the weight of that and the Browning door that I opened up. So much heavier to pull. Now, one thing that's really cool is these davits right here that we have and these hinge points in the center of this door is that as you open that thing up, you can flip it around like this, and it gives you much more flexibility of getting individual items in and out of there without being blocked in that pathway. So we're looking at a lot deeper, more steel, a higher fire ratings, a lot of different things and factors to looking at these safes. When I'm talking about items that we put in here that I call or put in the category as irreplaceable, different documents for myself, for my wife, or even for our children that we want to hold on to and be able to give them later, is that these items could all start playing a factor into that regard. So these are items that we really need to pay attention to, that as being responsible gun owners, is that we need to do whatever it is necessary to make sure that our weapons do not fall in the hands of someone that we love that can shoot themselves or shoot someone else by accident. We also need to make sure that these weapons don't get in the hands of someone who has broken into the home and is stealing the weapon. You know, I have to look, I watch the news just like you do, and I see these hundreds of thousands of different shootings where we hear if someone was arrested that was 16 years old or 15 years old or 17 years old. So I'm going, okay, I know they're not old enough to go buy a weapon. Where do they get the weapon from? So I'm having to think that some home that was broken into is probably a big factor of someone got their hands on a gun that was stolen, and now it's being passed around, that now that weapon ends up in the hands of someone who's using it for all the wrong reasons. So we have to take the initiative as being responsible gun owners, and are we going to stop all of it? Absolutely not. But we have to know that when we take responsibility of these things, that will help reduce those mechanisms at whatever necessary. All right, so in talking about the safes, one of the other things I'd mention in there is that you can put valuables in there to make sure that they would not be destroyed or damaged in case of a fire or other types of things of that nature, like if you've got important jewelry or expensive jewelry. Those are other items that we can put in there. So I brought a couple things with me today that's very important to me, that I would consider to be very important items, or very almost priceless, or items that if something were to happen to them, they couldn't be replaced. This first one here is my mother's Bible. She passed away in 2008. And actually, when I went to her home in Alabama to get all her different things together, I found this Bible, and it actually had her last time that she was in church, which is a Sunday before she passed away. It actually has the same bulletin in there from that same week that she passed away. She was in church on Sunday, passed away on that Tuesday. So I left her Bible just like it is. I've looked through it and have very fond memories about that. So if I say, okay, this is one of the things that I'd want to put in this safe so it wouldn't be damaged, that'd be one of the things. The other one is my own personal Bible that I have since 1975. My mother gave it to me. And that 1 year later, after she gave me the Bible, one thing that's really important to me is it also has inscripted in here the year and the day and the month that I accepted Christ in my life and made my connection with God myself. So these two things are very important because those would be the two things that I'd put in that safe. But in Matthew chapter 6, in Jesus' own words, he says, you know, that as we go through life, there's different things that we can put in this safe. He mentioned that you could put documents in there where a moth can destroy or get into and eat it. He mentioned that if you put important jewelry or different things like that that's very important to you, it can rust. And God forbid that, you know, for whatever reason, you put the combination in, someone breaks into your house and they figure out how to get into the safe, then thieves can steal it. So it doesn't really matter what we really don't have any trust or faith in what we can do for the things that we have that we can put into a safe. So in Jesus' own words, he says, you know, it's all about a value system. It's important we design our lives, we look into things, look into our own hearts and our minds and say, look, do I trust the things that I have that I can lock into this safe and put in here so no one else can get access to it? Or do I have the value system of saying that my heart and my mind is placed on those things in heaven? Now, to do those things is that I can say, you know, really, I want to have that desire to do that, but the only things that makes the true aspect of my life and that difference is making that connection with God like I did when I was 14. I knew that I was a sinner. I knew that I needed a connection with God. I knew that the only way that would happen would be through Him. So I made that connection with Him. So it's important to know that we should not put our faith and trust in the things that are of value in this safe. And also in 1 Timothy chapter 6, it talks about that for those people who have a value system that's on those things of heaven and not earth, to teach other people that same thing, not to place their investment, their faith, and all their hope in the values that can be found in the contents of a safe, because make no mistake about it, one day there will be a time when you'll have to give someone else the combination of that safe, even though you may choose not to, because you're going to leave this world. And when you do, those things and those contents that you found value that would define your life will be left in that safe. They will no longer have any value. So for me, making your connection with God is the most priceless, most valuable thing you could ever do, because at that beginning point, it gives you all the right priorities to not place your faith and trust and hope in things that are in this safe. And in our climate, in our society, in our world today, many people have lost all the value of their money, their retirements, their homes, their jobs, and they've looked to having no hope in their life resulting in many going to drugs and alcohol and even taking their own life. So for me, I want to invite you to know that if you can click on Connect with God, you'll learn more about having and beginning that relationship with God, which will change your life. It's changing from the value in this world to the value in heaven, knowing that those things that are there are the most important and best things living for. God bless you.